I'm walking you through hero's squats. So for hero's squats, we are starting in a hero's pose. If you don't know what hero's pose is, then please watch my video on hero's pose where I will walk you through it bit by bit, but I'm not going to talk you through the full ins and outs of hero's pose, other than our knees are together, our toes are together, and we're trying to keep our ankles as closely together as well. So you might notice in this position that the ankles want to kind of splay out to the side, and just see if you can be a little bit more active through your ankles, trying to pull them together, and you'll feel your calves and your legs waking up a little bit more. If you cannot do this kneeling position without knee pain, or if it's too much on your feet, then do not do this exercise. I don't want you doing such intense flexion of the knees and plantar flexion of the feet if your feet and your knees can't cope with it. So you're not attempting hero's pose if your knees or feet hurt in this position. There's other things that you can do that will benefit you more. What we're going to do in our hero's pose to start with is roll our pelvis forwards. So we don't want the pelvis sort of tucking under behind us. We call this a posterior pelvic tilt. We don't want the pelvis tucking under behind us because you can see how that kind of rounds my spine. It's disengaging my hips and therefore disengaging the kind of whole of my upper body. So the pelvis rolls forwards over the hips, and the pelvis coming forwards over the hips is different to you doing this and just puffing your rib cage up. So you're not shunting the rib cage up to the ceiling. The pelvis rolls forwards over the hips, and you can see my upper body comes with me without me changing my upper body position sort of in the upper body area, if that makes sense. We're going to try and focus on keeping that pelvis tilting forwards. So there's a little bit of an arch in your lower back, but keeping the rib cage down. So as soon as my pelvis comes forward like this, I want to do the rib cage flare, and that's important that we knock this on the head before we do the squat element of the exercise. So rib cage stays down at the front, but pulling your rib cage down doesn't then mean that you lose the pelvic position. So we're trying to find this kind of push-pull between the front and the back. The back pushes forward and the front pulls in to maintain that kind of alignment through the bottom of the rib cage and the front of the pelvis. Without changing your rib cage position, you're going to interlink your fingers and put your hands behind your head like so. So you might notice that as soon as you do this, the rib cage wants to pop up again. Keep the rib cage drawing down, pull your shoulder blades back and down. So the shoulder blades engaging is different to the rib cage popping up. So knees, toes, ankles are together as much as the ankles can. Pelvis drives forward, rib cage is down, hands are behind the head, and we're pulling our shoulder blades together so the inner edges of the blades touch, and then we're pulling them down behind away from our ears. So as you pull the shoulders together, you shouldn't notice that they hunch up by your ears. They are pulling back and down into the middle of your back, and you should feel engagement around your shoulders and your mid-back. Make sure that the neck isn't the thing that you're trying to engage. So if people can't move their shoulder blades very well, they tend to grip their teeth, poke their head forward, and then they start getting neck tension. So a bit like the knees and the feet, if you're in this position and you just can't get your neck to switch off, then don't do the exercise. Again, there's a million other exercises that you can do, but if your neck is getting tense, you're not moving your shoulder blades properly, so you'll feel worse afterwards, and we don't want that. Okay, so this is our position. And what we are trying to do is keep that engagement through the shoulders, and we're trying to keep our shoulders above our hips as we use our feet into the floor and use our glutes to power us up as we come into what we call, I guess this is the hero squat. So this is the upper portion of the squat, and then we slowly lower ourselves down. So can you see as I did that, I did not swing my upper body forwards and lean my bum backwards with the upper body following. If you're doing this, you're using momentum in the kind of upper body rather than using the feet and the glutes to power you into hip extension, which is what happens when you're at the top. So once again, shoulders pull back and down, pelvis rolls forward, rib cage in. It's the rib cage in I really struggle with. And then using my feet, pushing them down into the floor and squeezing my glutes as I come up, my shoulders stay in alignment with my hips, and I'm taking that push forwards with my pelvis so that my hips are above my knees. So sometimes, and don't worry if you're trying to do that but it's hard and you can't quite get there, but what we don't want to do is have you hurrying and sort of you're coming up and down really quickly, so you're not taking your hips into the full extension, which is what occurs when the hip is directly above the knee like this, okay? So I'm going to demonstrate 10 of these. The more slowly you go, the more difficult it will be and the more beneficial it will be. So we are using our glutes and our hamstrings and our calves to kind of fire ourselves up forwards into the hip extension, and then we're keeping the shoulder blades active to keep our upper body back from compensating, and we're going to lower down really, really, really slowly as well. So let's do 10 nice and slowly, shoulders above hips, rib cage down, off we go. 1, slowly lower down. 2, my knees clicking, hopefully hips moving into place. 3, I need to keep my rib cage down, I say bad at that. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good job. So that is hero squats. It's a great exercise for putting some strength back into the glutes and hamstrings. It's a good one for pelvic balance, and it's a really good one for eliminating thoracic rotation and also that sort of hunchy forward thoracic flexion position as well.